Qualify the Podcast. I'm your host, Hassan. With me, I have a legend and a very good brother pastor that's doing great in the community, and I'm trying not to geek out. But let me just introduce my gentleman here today. We have brother, minister, Brandon Glaspie, hashtag Prison Youth Ministries. And also we have Houston legend, co-founder of South Park Coalition, K-Rino.
Man.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for having us, brother. We appreciate you and honored to be on your platform and looking forward to it.
All right. I got to take a deep breath. I just said K-Rino's in here. So here's the deal. I don't want to allude to this because we're gonna bounce between the conversations.
Yes, sir.
And I talked to Brandon, of course, how we connected. Shout out to DJ Clint. Shout out to A-Dub. They're actually going to be on our indie radio show tonight at 7 o'clock. The nature of the business, just for the platform, we always try to introduce and highlight things that normally aren't the topic of conversation amongst us. We can talk about music, that's cool. We can talk about gossip, I don't. That's just not really what I do. But what I really like to do is to dive deep into why people are trying to give back to the community.
Right.
What's the story behind why they decided to build a platform this way, effectively brand themselves in a way that's the way that they want to be known from here to perpetuity. That's the way I like to do business, and that's the reason why I like to talk to people like that, which is why I'm very, very happy for you to be on the show. On the flip side, we have you, who, of course, you have your platform now, which is, K-Rino Live? What's your YouTube page?
K-Rino Radio, but the real K-Rino is the YouTube channel.
The real K-Rino is a YouTube channel. So I've been studying that for a couple of days to dust up on something. And I got to talk to you about flowers because that's been sitting on me for like 3 straight days. Like it's been living with. I'm not lying to you. However, the way that you've done music, the evolution of your music, between South Park Coalition all the way up to yourself being a solo artist and all that you've worked with, man, we got a lot to talk about. So I'm enthused about this. I really am happy about that. But let's start with you, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Can
sir.
you please give us a very synopsis on why you decided to start Prison Youth Ministries?
Well, to begin, in 2003, coming out of high school, K-Rino know this. Well, he don't know this from 2003, but he know me from music.
Okay.
Rapping out there when our homegirl Cliche was doing the Hustle Hard block parties.
Shout out to Cliche.
Out there, MLK, Reed World, you know what I'm saying? I'll be out there, CO the Politician, rapping. Still doing community outreach at the same time. So at that point in time, it was Prison Youth Productions.
Okay.
Then the evolution morphed into what we know now as Prison Youth Ministries. So it's always been there in me for the outreach, going to juvenile centers, the jails on San Jacinto, visiting or just writing individuals from parents, reaching out to me. So during that 2003 process is when that community outreach activism was birthed, and that's where we're here today.
We got to make a note on this. Brothers don't give enough compliments to each other. I'm really starting to be big on that. But I got to say this. If you've been doing this since 2003, that means you've been involved for 20 years almost. You're about to have a 20-year anniversary
Yeah, I haven't
of the
even
business.
counted like that.
People are going to be looking at this on streaming platforms,
Right.
or listening to this on streaming
Yes, sir.
platforms. You're going to see it on YouTube. The man looks 22. Okay,
No doubt.
it looks like. So when did you start this?
Amen
You
to
was
that.
2 years old when you did it. Like how does this work? So
Yes,
again,
indeed. Yes,
aging process. You're aging backwards, right?
Thank
I
you,
attribute
thank
that to joy and good work.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
why the name.
The name Prison Youth reflects back to the paradigm of self-imprisonment.
Okay.
Due to drugs, violence, and day-to-day struggles. Not so much the physical imprisonment. What we do, we try to reach those brothers and sisters, young and old, before they make it to that point. Because originally coming from the west side of Chicago, I definitely had my experiences, family experiences of being around those elements and feeling in prison because I'm seeing that, oh, this is all I have. Whether to be a part of the gang or sell drugs, that's my destiny. So that's my self-imprisonment. I don't see myself going any further. So when we, reach out to brothers and sisters and let them know we're sharing our experiences, but letting you know that is a way out of that paradigm of imprisonment. It's more to, the drugs, the violence, the day-to-day struggles. Even though society puts that on us as a tag, you have willing brothers and sisters like K-Rino, myself, many others who are willing to get out there and show you other paths.
I feel that. I had a thought, and I'm glad I was wrong, because, statistically we just have far too much of that, right? But when I heard it, I said, okay, well, I wonder if that was something that you took a turn in your life through the system to come out and give back, or was it you jumping ahead of that train, so to speak, to help others? I'm glad it's the latter. I mean, that, is positive. It's very positive. It's just the nature, and the reason why I saw it initially is because Clint let me know, some connections when we were talking about who we could speak with. And initially, Clint's like, I'll send you over to my guys. And I'm like, I like to go through the people who introduce me. Right. Because it's always a really good conversation. Like I can sit in a room with you and I think I'm sociable, but if they're vouching for you, then they're with you. So let's just have the collective conversation amongst the community.
Definitely.
And so then I started to research that you did the Peace Ride, and that's more than one, as we talked about on the phone. You said that was not the first time that you did it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that in a moment. But the other outlets that you do through Prison Youth Ministries, what else do you do? What else do you coordinate under that brand?
Under that branch, I know you mentioned the Peace Ride, and that's something that our brother Muhammad out of Mosque 45 has started down here through K-Rino, the ARC, and all the rest of the brothers and sisters here in Houston that built up that foundation. And we all have our organizations and brands and just coming together for the betterment of the community. Like you mentioned, that's one, as well as in Fifth Ward, where we located off of Market and Pinnell Street. Countless outreaches throughout the community, especially in Kelly Courts, as well as all over the city. But another branch of Prison Youth is sharing trades and getting brothers and sisters who have backgrounds in trades, whether if it's plumbing, IT, or whatever it may be, and sharing that knowledge with young brothers and sisters and letting them know that we're not going to charge you anything, but we're going to help educate you in this to let you know that, your hands, your mind can be used to make money as well. So that's one of our focal points as well. And it just came over years of networking and building up with other avenues of business and entrepreneurs and seeing who's really genuine. I mean, because you got a lot of people who have these skills, have these backgrounds, but in heart, they're not genuine to share it and build up, not one, their fellow man, not alone their community. So we have the spirit of discernment to weed out the ones who's not going to really help and focus on the ones who's going to really help us build up the community.
For sure. K-Rino, legend. How long have you been working with Brother Brandon?
A few years now. It's been some years, maybe not. When did we first start? When the Cliche was doing a block party? About 10 years ago? 8?
Yeah, I think it's about 10 years ago.
On and off throughout the years, we connected. And, more recently, through the ARC and all that, he's been really just immersing himself in just not just what we're doing, but in different activities. So we always come together.
For those not in the loop, can we explain what ARC is?
Yes, sir. ARC stands for Artists Respecting Community. And what that is years ago, when there was a lot of beef going on between a lot of the mainstream hip-hop artists, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan reached out to those artists and invited them to Chicago to meet with him. And when he invited them out, he also invited a lot of his regional ministers out to witness it, to witness how he handled the situation. And when it was over with, a lot of those guys who was having a lot of problems, they made peace. So the minister asked his student ministers to take that model and bring it back to their respective cities, which Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad, who was a regional student minister in the Nation of Islam under Mr. Farrakhan in the city of Houston, he did that, and he reached out to me and was like, man, we need to replicate that. And that's how ARC was born. So myself, Sister Cliche, Sister Fire, the media mogul who came up with the name, Brother Wicked Cricket, OG.
Yeah, shout out Rick Cricket.
Yeah, you know, and other brothers, the Gangsta Nip, we all came together and started that whole project. And since then, we've just been taking it to the community and mixing the art with the work and using the art as a means to relay the messages. So that's what ARC is.
Okay, so before I dive into the next point, where can more information about ARC be found?
Well, we have a website. We're still working on getting it more promoted and marketed. But if you really want to know, you can just reach out to me or reach out to Sister Cliche or Brother Pastor Brandon, and we can just give you the rundown. Before the pandemic kicked off, we would have meetings periodically, maybe once a month, once every other month, and we would invite not just artists, but people in the community and anybody who was willing to come sit in, and we would discuss certain initiatives we was working on, or we would just get down to the business of educating on the music industry, whatever the time dictated in that moment. So we're going to get back to that, and then when that happens, you know, I see you being at one of those meetings one day.
Oh, I'm coming. No, I'm coming. Yeah. See, here's the deal, and this is the point that I was trying to make. When I'm looking at you, I'm saying, okay, somewhere around 16 years old, I believe that's probably like the first time that I actually ran into you. Now, at 16 years old, I was 4'11". Okay, now he's already 9 feet tall. You see what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So like when I meet him, like, hey, what's going on? You know, like this is that. But just for understanding of geography, I'm off Martin Luther King and Reed. I'm from South Park, right? So off MLK and Reed on Overdale Street, and I used to work at the Walgreens that you shot that video at for Flowers.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's living with me. I was like, you was literally right here. Like I could have been grabbing batteries out of that the day you shot that little scene where the dudes ran up and gave the woman flowers.
Right.
Because at first I was looking at it, I said, that ain't the same one. But the Jack in the Box is right there. And I said, that's the one. Yeah. That's the same Walgreens that Devin the dude used to come into. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He used to grab all of whatever necessities. You know, it's the corner store. We don't have a lot of corner stores no more. Yeah. Right. You know, we used to. But when did you get to Houston? Because I know you were from Chicago. When did you get to Houston?
99-2000.
So you remember like A&A used to be all MLK and Reed. Okay. But not Shell. Like right. There used to be a Valero, there used to be a Shell. It got very, very corporate, but that's like our last great corner store off in that area. You know what I'm saying? Going down Zelensky maybe, you know, you have that one little small red shack. I'm being very Houston right now for the crowd. And I don't care because I'm sitting with a legend. So I'm talking about South Park. You're just going to have to deal with this. Fast forward for about 5 minutes. All right, so also in South Park. But yeah, that's my people. You know, my people off Dead End. And so I've always seen you, right? Then as an adult, I think I ran into you at a restaurant. I had my baby with me, leaving out with my wife and my baby. And I was like, hey, K-Rino, why I got to give him his flowers? No pun intended. But why I got to give him his flowers is because I think that you have always been one of the most sociable rap artists in this city. Approachable. You know, just very, very able to do it. You know, sometimes, I mean, you know, everybody's got a history, everybody's got a story. And this ain't about disrespect but some people aren't approachable, you know, because you know. Now I would like to be able to do that with everyone to say, okay, well, if you was a rap artist, insert name here, I as a fan should be able to say, hey man, I really feel you, but I know where we live, and I know what we've all gone through, because I'm an '80s baby, pre-crack era '80s baby, so I saw that and I saw what it did to people. It changes you. It just changes you. We're all veterans in that respectful sense, right? But I had to throw that out there because it was kind of crazy for me to be nostalgic looking at a video. I think that was only last year that you released that.
2020, 2019.
2020?
You know, it's funny too, man, because the Walgreens, man, that Walgreens got a lot of history. And a lot of people don't know. People who close to the South Park Coalition, they know. Back when I was in high school, and I used to battle rap a lot. And me and Gangsta Nip had a big rap battle, and he went to Jones. Okay. I went to Sterling. Yeah. So the automatic thought was, I'm not coming to your school, and he knew he wouldn't come to my school. So we met in the middle, and we battled in that Walgreens parking lot.
Oh, man. Wow. This Walgreens has got history.
After we battled in that parking lot, every week different people would meet up and battle. We were like, it's like, so we named it the Battleground.
The
That
Battleground.
parking lot. This is before they beautified it and all that, you know.
Yeah.
But that was the Battleground back in the day, that same parking lot. So some always
crazy.
brings me back there.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Right there. Belford and Martin Luther King, right?
Belford and Martin Luther King. And I went to Sterling too.
Wow.
I didn't know that though. I didn't know that part
Yeah.
at all. I graduated late 90s, right out there, Sterling, Magna Honors, aviation program.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, really interesting connection.
Awesome.
Really interesting connection. Shout out to Gangsta Nip. That's
No
the
doubt.
co-founder of South Park Coalition.
My brother.
This is, what's really weird about this is that I think I first heard screw music in 91. I was in middle school, and one of the young boys had a little tape, tape deck, great tape deck. He's playing it, because back then, there was no headphones. He just wanted everybody to hear it, but them little handheld tapes. Right. And he was playing it, and I never knew what was being said. Because it's your first time hearing it. I said, man, let's just slow down. I don't really understand it. Yeah. And you catch the double tap, and that was a little Kiki freestyle, but he also had South Park Coalition, and he also had Ghetto Boys on the same tape, and I'll never forget it. And it's very odd to me that I'm talking to you, because I just talked to Willie D the other day, and so it's kind of like that. And I just saw Lil Kiki at the storage unit, so like it just keeps running back this way. Super weird. This is weird, but it's okay. I'm gonna ride this wave.
Perfect timing.
So
yeah,
with the branches of social awareness that you both operate in, right? Because I want to talk about the music, but I'm gonna wait for that. I want to talk about the history of you transitioning from. You've always been lyrical, but content-wise has made a shift, and I'd like to touch on that. But before I do that, with the aspect of artists respecting communities, right? You working with ARC, that's a merge of brands, so to speak. Because it's a business podcast, we do talk about branding. Now, are you operating as a NPO or an LLC?
NPO.
An NPO. Now, I find it extremely important, if you don't mind. Could you explain your journey on how you were able to get your NPO? Because it's not easy.
I mean, yeah, it's not easy. Network.
Okay.
Just, being around the right individuals, getting the right advice, trusting in those individuals, and trusting in them to help you with the process. Because, you'll meet, along this type of journey, you'll meet many people that will say, well, let's help you do this, or let's help you line up with that. But then come to find out, if you don't have that discernment, it all goes back to that discernment, then you'll be led other ways and different paths, and then you got to start from scratch and come back to the drawing board.
How long did it take from in terms of your application to your approval? Like, how long was the process?
It was a minute. It was a minute. It was a minute. That's the best answer I can get. It was definitely a minute.
I would probably say that that's a testament of faith. Like, just based on, having to apply for it. Because essentially, and just for, if the younger people are listening, it's a nonprofit organization is what you're filing for, as opposed to a limited liability company.
Right.
Now, for the sake of my business, it's an LLC.
Right.
Now, I don't think that I ever had any ambition to turn it into an NPO. I think maybe when I first started, I said these are just two options. I could probably be subsidized and, get it balanced out. But I didn't really think, for the sake of branding purposes, that's what I wanted to do. Although now, speaking with our community, I've met a few NPO owners, and I'd love to hear about the journey, because clearly it's you operating in good nature, good faith, and you got to keep everything very, very straight in order to not have a knock on your door. You know what I'm saying?
True.
But go ahead.
To add on now, there may be a transition. There may be a transition, because in the climate we living in, and the things that we talk about, that we have to talk about, that we have to make known, doesn't fall in the category or under the tree of NPO. Because like you say, certain things have to be in structure according to that system. And then anytime you go outside that system, because at the end of the day, that system is ran by the government. So anytime you come out of that system, or if you talk, or you may say some of the things KB said on record,
He means
system gonna be like, well, hold on, you got this from us. I need you to do this way. So when I say the transition, 95% is going to have to go LLC, because we can no longer, sit around and allow the word dysfunctional mindsets to wander and to confuse the rest of the people in the community without making it known. I talked to one brother the other night. I said, we're good to sit at home and watch snowfall and still trust in the government, even though they're making it plain or what they did.
It's literally right there.
And then making it entertaining for us to watch it and saying, well, we know we did this to you, and we're going to make you watch it and laugh and enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah.
So definitely the transition is coming, because a lot more is going to be said, a lot more is going to be exposed, and this is the year of discernment.
What's your opinion about, I want to hear this from both of you though, but what's your opinion about content in mainstream media, in my opinion, seemingly becoming more agenda based than it ever has been before? It's probably the easiest way that I can say it. Because when you look at, that would make us a purist. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of us wanting to keep things either binary or straightforward, or just a general understanding of how things should, quote unquote, be. Right. Everything now seems to be filtered through lenses of algorithms. They're filtered through larger entities, making sure that there's a voice. I like it because I like progress.
Yeah.
I'm confused in terms of where our roles are as leaders and community leaders when there is so much sensitivity in what you would say. And so, you see how I just danced around that, by the way? So there's so much sensitivity in what it is that you would say, or what your platform is, and how you would like to broadcast it. Because for discernment purposes, everybody should be able to watch, listen, learn from, and vouch for what they like.
True.
Shouldn't necessarily have to be a combative situation with, I don't like this because it poses a threat to my platform, or it poses a threat to my agenda. It actually doesn't. Until there is a known conflict, it actually doesn't. But I think all the known conflicts have probably been established for the past 2,000-3,000 years. Right. I mean, it's always been right or wrong, moral versus amoral, ethical versus unethical. How do you manage your social media platforms in this day and age? Like, how does it work for you?
Well, we got to understand that there's a level of control that's trying to be imposed on us in all facets. So when you see these platforms that we claim but we don't own, like I might say, my channel, my page, but it's really not.
Yes.
It doesn't belong to me. It's like living in an apartment complex. I can say, this is my apartment, but you don't own this building. There's a landlord who owns, and they can figure out a way to kick you out even if you think you're doing everything right. Okay. So there's a level of control that they're imposing on you. Now, when you say agenda-based, that's a great way to describe it, because everybody has an agenda, and the groups who are in power, when you talk about the groups, can I talk? Or
talk.
All right, okay.
Say it.
I don't want to get nobody in trouble, because I know how I do. If you're talking about the Jewish community, members of the Jewish community who have basically have a stronghold on what's being released and what you should say, what you better not say, and we are the ones who cutting your checks and all these different things, all these different details. So everybody walks on eggshells because they worried about their bottom line. Now, if somebody steps up and decides that, you know what, I've learned this truth, I'm going to speak this truth, even if it condemns the very people who are paying me, then they have a price to pay.
Sure.
Now, and me as an artist, I learned early on that, okay, that's just, I got to make a choice. Because that was a time, in my ignorance, that I knew that's, okay, I'm just trying to be the best rapper. I'm trying to get a record deal. That's all I knew. But when I came into the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I was like, oh, I got to talk about this. I got to rap about this. Little did I know that those teachings were in direct opposition or in direct condemnation of members of the Jewish community who happen to own all the record labels, who happen to run the entertainment industry on the whole, sports, all that.
Yeah.
So when I started speaking on behalf of these teachings, then I got my first taste of that. Like, nope, you don't get this record deal. You don't get. So just to make a long story short, we have to focus more on ownership. If we focus more on ownership, then we don't have to worry about what we said being putting our head on the chopping block. Right. Because we talked about my YouTube channel earlier, and my channel's already been struck down a couple of times. I've been suspended a couple of times, songs removed, content removed because of things that I said. So, man, if I made a video about the vaccine, they're like, nope. They grabbed me by the top of the hair and chopped my head off for a while. So we have to focus more so on ownership, and that way we don't have to worry about somebody coming along and just peeking over your shoulder and saying, nope, don't say that, scratch that out. This is the line we want you to walk. At one word, they can shut you down. Yeah. And a lot of our brothers and sisters, they fear being shut down like that because we don't have the power and the ownership and the control.
The video that you made, the song you made, but you shot a visual to it. In the meeting?
The meeting, yeah.
The meeting.
Yeah.
That's what you're alluding to now.
Yeah, just that whole concept of, I said a line in that song where I say, it reminded me of Jesus and the devil on the mountaintop.
On the mountaintop.
Where they offer you the whole world in exchange for your submission to them. Mm-hmm. So if I'm willing to submit and follow and walk that line that they want me to walk, you can have everything. You can have the money, the mansion, you can have the cars, the clothes, the women, the drugs, whatever it is you're into.
Yeah.
Just don't cross me. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to a choice of saying, okay, well, you know what? I want this record deal. I think I want this record deal. I want to get out there like that, but not at the cost of selling myself out and selling the people out.
Right.
So that's what that whole song was about.
I'm going to put a pin on that because I have date questions on that. Okay. So how do you manage your platform?
Well, in today's time, to be honest, it's pretty much, it is what it is. When it comes to the gospel as it is written, when it comes to, awareness, what's going on in the news, what's really going on in the news, and what's really going on in the community. It's been certain times where, certain people then called and said, well, why are you doing this way? Why you don't change it up? You should wear this, or you should make your flyer look like this, like the other ministers and preachers, make it more presentable. When they mean presentable, they mean more
acceptable.
Acceptable, yeah.
Yes,
come give me your money type stuff. But when you see me, you'll see me in the community. You'll see me dressed like this. You'll see me around, bangers. You'll see me around people who may allegedly sell drugs. You may see me around those who Christ walked amongst, you know what I'm saying? Because he became all things at the same time, just showing that this is who I'm here for. And that's who I mimic my example out of. Mm-hmm.
I think that I see, as I've studied, I just, it wasn't a lot of studying, respectfully, it wasn't a lot of studying I had to do with you because of my involvement with understanding how Houston music was. But what I left off from you with, in my understanding of your journey, there's a gigantic gap, which I think that's the reason why I wanted to pin it. There's a gigantic gap between how your music transitioned and then where your message became distributed outside of music that I didn't have that information on, which is what I wanted to dive into. When it comes down to your platform, though, when I studied it, it really does seem like you're outside, like you're outside with people, and you're engaging with people, as opposed to pontificating on a social media platform. You're not sending out praise tweets. It's not really what your platform is, which I'm not saying that in a bad way. Right. We can have a marketing conversation. I mean, all right, but that's not what I mean.
Right.
I mean that your engagement is actually person to person. Yeah. And it is rare now to see person to person engagement. Definitely. So I guess really I didn't mean it the way I asked it, because when I said, how did you manage your platform? Really, I'm outside. Is kind of how you manage your platform.
Definitely.
I respect that though. When you chose this route,
Yeah.
why would you choose that route as far as taking the social personal engagement route as opposed to any other platform that you could have used for your message?
Well, that would be along the lines of traditional, I would say. Because traditionally I can, stay behind the pulpit, give a message here, do an online stream, Bible study, you know, which is nothing wrong with that. Shout out to those who do that. But like you say, being amongst the people, especially those who have fallen away from just the church building per se, because they've seen so much of so-called believers, just manipulating and what's the word, prostituting the word, and just and been doing it for ages, not just been doing it for so long, and you only have so many of the so-called. I mean, you have only so many of the called going behind the so-called people cleaning up their mess. So it's a lot of mess that we out here cleaning up. And to get to the source and the root of it, we got to go to the people.
That's right.
Serendipity. That's what this is about. I had a conversation about. I mentor. Let me give you background on that. So I mentor based on my history. I lived in Hong Kong for like a year, right? And I come back home and I needed to find somewhere to be for all that energy. So I had a small fighting background. So I just came back into a gym that actually was annexed to a church, right? And that's on the east side. Over there, this young boy comes in, I think about 17 years old at the time, and troubled, and he needed help. You know what I mean? So through that, this is all kickboxing. So like through that, he's like, man, I want to learn how to fight. And the first thing I asked him was like, why? Right. Because it's important. That's right. But I also think that in fighting, you will answer a question. The way I was taught and raised, it wasn't under conventional sports anyway. It was under isolated, unique individual sports. It's going to be fighting, it's going to be wrestling, track and field, which is still a very individual thing. Even if you run a relay, your efforts are what's going to help that 1 to 200 meter or that 400 meter. Mm-hmm. So I understood that. I answered those questions, and I think because I completed those circles, I was enabled to help somebody else understand their own journey. Right. But every coach ain't an athlete, and every athlete ain't a coach. Right. I feel comfortable in saying that I'm thankful to be both. Right. So I had the conversation with him 2 nights ago. I didn't agree with anything he said. I was like, nah, I don't. No, I said. And matter of fact, when you brought that up the last time you said it, it was about a whole different subject matter and a different goal that you had. I said, so let's course correct this now, because you can't put me in what you're talking about right now. I feel you. All right, bro. I got you, bro. But to stand on principle is not a problem. How to deliver your stance is usually where we have issues. So like I'm pretty black and white with mine, but I'm very respectful about what I don't agree with, And other than that, I'm pretty aqueous. Like, that's cool, because it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? That's not on my jacket. That's your jacket. I don't have mud on mine. But if you want, hey. But I told you, don't say I didn't tell you. That's generally how I am now. But this is what happens after 40. Like you just tend not to care as much. In regard, you care, but
you understand that it ain't that serious to be going to the extreme about whatever. Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah, you pick and choose when it's time to do it. And the times to really just go all out are so rare in life.
Yes.
But the problem is sometimes
move that back to you.
We do that.
Yeah.
We go all out when we're not supposed to.
Yeah. And
it's like, boom, now 25 years in prison, life in prison, something like that, dead, whatever it is.
Yeah.
When you get that, like Pastor Brandon, that discernment to say, oh, nah, you know what? Mm-hmm. That ain't worth me going to 1,000 on, and that's what a lot of young people, that's why we got to be boots on the ground with them, to make them understand that.
That makes sense.
One little,
and it's over.
Little divot to the left or the right, you out of there. You know?
But I think it's, so you're mainly, not mainly, but mostly in Fifth Ward?
church wise, yeah, the church home is Mount Olive Church is in Fifth Ward, Market and Pinell Street. So yeah, mainly stationed in Fifth Ward, Texas right now.
And you're mainly still in South Park or Southeast Houston still?
Yeah, I'm on the south side, but we go wherever.
Yeah.
Wherever we called, invited, or wherever the need needs to be served, we go. But we the earth is our turf.
Earth is my turf.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, the earth is my turf.
Without a doubt.
Um,
Without a doubt.
The point of which we was talking about right before you stepped in, the thing that always echoes in my head, and I cannot remember where I heard it from. So if this is a part of a mantra, forgive me. I don't cite who said it, but it is what's happening right now. Does it need me to be involved? That's question one. Do I have to say something, or does it even need to be said by me? These are the only things that I think about whenever something's happening. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if I got to do anything with that, so I'm outie, we just have to leave that be. That's somebody else's problem, or it used to not be that way. I think that was mostly testosterone and ego. It just used to just be like, oh, problem? Yeah, here we go. We just off to go see what we can do about that. That get a lot of people killed.
Yeah.
Pride gets you killed.
Yeah, it's picking your battles. And the crazy part about it is there's a time to make a determination to say, okay, you know what? This might get me killed. This might mean I have to kill somebody, but in this moment,
It might be worth
this
it.
is important
It's
enough
worth
and
it.
worth it
Yeah.
to do it. But the other 99.8% of the things,
Yeah.
it's not that serious.
Right.
That's
You know,
right.
so or they can be handled in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Or the approach can be different. It may not solve it, but your approach can be like, you know what, I'm gonna move on it in this particular way. If it's not received, and I'm move around. I'm gonna move around.
We about to do something I didn't plan for.
What you got?
This is about to be a mentor conversation. This is about to be a whole mentor conversation. Because I was like, yeah, okay, great. Everything you saying right now, I know you say this to people. I know you do. Actually, I heard it on your YouTube page as well.
Right.
What does it have to do with me? Man, I cannot remember the title. I'm not being disrespectful trying to
Oh
remember.
no,
it,
I did so many, man. I don't even remember all of them.
it was one of them. It was about for an hour that you were talking, and it was like I think the title of it was "What does this have to do with me?" Which is pretty much where this resonates.
Right.
Does this have anything to do with me? No. I might entertain it. I might not. I wish you well. It had nothing to do with me not wanting to see you successful.
Right.
I just can't dump my time into that. I'm really into the economy of time. But now that we're on mentorship and guidance, what are some of the things that you say to the youth? When you have those encounters, like scenarios where you have somebody in trouble, clearly going down the wrong pathway, right? How do you even approach them, right? Because I know for me, I was blessed by being approached. And I thank you, Johnny, if you're listening, I thank you, because I wouldn't have known how to come at him. You know what I'm saying? So seeing it, understanding it, and knowing exactly how to implement what you need to say. How do you manage that?
When approaching,
Yeah.
well, first, I definitely got to share my experience, life experience, not so much from a ministry point, but real life experience, depending on where I'm at, whether it be in Fifth Ward, Third Ward, South Side, Southwest, wherever I'm at, coming across whomever. And when you share your life experience, let them know who you really are just as a person. That opens up the door, the eyes, the heart, the ears for that individual so they can relate. Because if they don't have anything to relate to, I'm not finna listen to you to whatever else, coming out your mouth. But once that door gets open, when I share my life experience, I clearly let them know. A lot of old heads in church, don't like it when I say this, but I let them know. I say, Jesus ain't for everybody. Salvation not for everybody. And that makes a lot of them mad because, what you mean? Jesus is for everybody. What you mean? Nah, because everybody not for him. At the end of the day, not everybody want to be the example or change their mental or their lifestyle to walk that certain path. You know what I'm saying? It's a choice. And for people like us, we're not finna force you, because we feel that, you're your own person at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? But if you do decide to stay on the other side, we gonna make sure you gate it off so you don't influence nobody else.
All right.
That's just how it's gonna have to be, and that's where I see we failed over the years by allowing those who decided to stay on that other side to still come over and influence the generations to come and the seeds. So when they grow now, we gotta go and clean them up and repeat the process.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I also to add to that, if I have a group of young people that's getting ready to play basketball, and they want to play basketball, I'm not going to bring in a neurosurgeon to talk to them about basketball. It's two different fields. So as far as in the hood, people are going to gravitate towards somebody that looks like them, that's a reflection of them. And even if they have transitioned out of a certain lifestyle, they have that lifestyle on their resume to where they can at least speak on it with the people who are currently in that lifestyle and get that respect. Like, well, he been where I'm at right now. And that's the whole thing. And to come from an angle, from a non-judgmental angle, you know, one of the biggest mistakes we make with our young people, man, we stand over them and talk to them like we grew up perfect, like we grew up flawless, and we so judgmental of them, and that automatically gonna turn them off. They're not trying to hear that. They seeing the hypocrisy in that.
Yeah.
So if you come at them non-judgmental, and even to, hey man, look, bro, I've done what you did and worse in certain situations. Brother Jesse Muhammad, he came on my radio show a long time ago, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so it's like we have to exhibit love to young brothers and sisters who have never even felt love to the degree to where they just hardened at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. They hard as a rock, because that's all they knew coming up. So underneath that hard exterior is a core of love. It's in there. That nature is in there.
Yeah.
But we got to figure out how to tap into it and get them on that path without beating them over the head with their activities. We're going to pull you out of that.
Yeah.
You can't remain in that, but we're gonna have patience with you.
Right. Definitely.
Rhetorical question. Is religion and discipline one and the same?
It can be, because principles of discipline exist inside of religion. Religion has certain guidelines and rules, so there's discipline in that. So you can look at it and say, well, it's the same thing. I think just one is encompassed in the other, you know. But we have to just also, again, especially with our youth, we have to get them past that negative view of the word religion, because oh man, I don't deal with it. I'm not religious. I don't deal. See, I always try to make sure that I make people understand. You talking about organized religion. You talking about what man constructed that you have developed a hatred for. I don't got no problem with that, because I understand. If you know any of the history, you know what they've done to the pure word of the Creator. They raped it. So I get where you coming from, but religion in its pure form, it ain't nothing wrong with that, and it is discipline in that, which is another reason why people kind of shy away from it, because they don't want to.
Discipline is hard.
Exactly.
Discipline is tough.
Right.
Everybody wants to do one thing. Nobody want to work to actually get there.
Right.
Everybody want to get in shape. Don't nobody lift weights. Everybody want to run a marathon. Don't nobody want to jog. You know.
No.
The end result. Yeah.
And that's a good point, because principles of discipline and examples of it exist outside of just religion. Just like you said, I want to shoot like Steph Curry. Well, you don't know what Steph did.
Yeah.
You know how many shots he took to get that good at how he shoot. You can't just walk in the gym and start doing that.
Yeah.
So it's a level of discipline that has to be self-imposed at a point, because initially like you grew up in a household, initially discipline is imposed on you by an authority, a parent, or whatever, teacher in school. But once you learn the principles, you at a point where, okay, I got to do this for myself.
Yeah.
No, my mama can't come to my house, and when I'm living on my own now, hey, you got to go to work, got to get up.
Yeah.
You got to do that on your own. So that's a good point, bro.
That's true.
Yeah, constant application of a task is discipline, but you do have to want it. You do have to want it.
That's right.
And as you get older, you have to want it for yourself. I mean, it's not something that I understood church as a construct very early on, just based on the family, based on what my grandmother did, based on what my grandfather did, and my mother. It just took, just regular activity of constantly going to church. Now, through that, perhaps I didn't necessarily enjoy that activity because I couldn't appreciate it as a child. But there's one man that I just adored in that process, and that was Pastor Reverend G.T. Curry. When he would speak, now I'm talking about as a child, his voice echoed so hard. He's just one of those, men just stern. He was a prime example of what I thought a really good pastor in a black church, because church is different, right? But pastors in a Baptist black church would be, and I really enjoyed that. He recently just stepped down. He's in his 80s now, so he's become pastor emeritus at this point. But that conversation just made me remember it. Now later, as in my journey, I learned and read a lot of other things. I've again, being overseas, I visited temples. I went to Morocco. I touched the sands. I just wanted to feel this. Just try to understand it all, because I don't believe that you can have a very civil conversation with someone if you don't kind of understand where they're coming from.
Come on, man.
And perhaps their message and their delivery doesn't, not necessarily that it doesn't qualify them, but maybe I don't want to hear it the way that it's being said by that person. So let me do my own independent research, right? And then from there, we can have that conversation. And I'm very thankful for that, for my ears to have been open along that journey. But the question of discipline, not versus religion, but is it, included? I like that. I like it that you say that it can be. I think the books, plural, are the guidelines for said discipline within the construct of what you're going to observe. There's a Tao, there's a Quran, there's a Bible. Right. Those books got discipline in it. That's right. they have stories about discipline and disciplinarians in it. So those, I get it. I thought about it. I had a fleeting moment, but I'm glad you entertained that part. What do you think, though? Is it the same or is it separate?
Definitely. Like my counterpart said, it's definitely the same. Definitely the same. You can't have one without the other. It just comes back to that choice, though. We'll read it, but are we gonna act upon it? At the end of the day, we'll read it in house, but as soon as we go outside, I'm gonna lean to my own understanding now, and I don't think a lot of mankind, women and men, understand that simple term or scripture or whatnot. Don't lean to your own understanding. It's actually more powerful than it's simply said. Because we see it on the news every day. When somebody go left, fully left, depending on the situation. I mean, I can talk about my situations all day where I would think I would have the right to go left, humanly. But we know if I do make that choice and go that route, I'm going to be on the news or somebody else going to be on the news. Yeah. So instead of doing that, obeying the teachings, following the instructions, discipline myself to be able to die to self. That comes with that discipline to die to self. I'm going to put self away and be led by what I'm learning here, and so on.
And the reason why I said it can be also, and why I use the term pure religion in its pure form, I needed to also add to that religion as the Creator intended it to be, because we can make anything into a religion.
We can.
And so if I have a dissatisfaction with how the disciplines of other religions are implemented, then I can say, well, I'll just start my own religion. And this religion and my religion, it's all right. to smoke crack. It's all right to snort lines. You know, if y'all want to do that, no need nobody telling y'all, come to my religion, come to the church
right.
of whatever. This is the whatever church.
It'll be full.
Yeah,
too.
and so that's the thing. So religion is defined different ways by different people.
Yeah.
So it just depends. So that's a separation. But because, you know, just even the word in discipline is still based on examples that we had to see, because that's the word disciple.
Yeah.
You know, disciple is a person that's under a discipline. You know, so we have to be, we're going to be disciples of whatever discipline that we take to. You know, so it can go in so many different directions. But for those of us who know we ain't perfect, but we striving to some degree to line up with our original nature, then we fight that fight every day. And we trying to get there, and we not gonna deal with the madness the best we can, you know.
Your journey in the music industry started off. You said you started off and you just wanted to get a record deal, but you've been mainly independent throughout your entire. Did you ever go main? Did you ever sign with a major?
No, that's the thing. When I first started, you know, my dad was financing my whole career. You know, I told him at 16, I said, man, I want to put a record out. And he was like, okay, cool. You know, he was hustling, had bread like that. So we went on that journey, but not having any knowledge of the business. Yeah. So he is a great example of how when you don't know something, surround yourself with the people who do. So we got a lot of music people that had been in the business, and they latched on, and we started moving forward. And the first thing was like, okay, man, let's make a song, demo, and shop it to major labels. And, you know, you said you're 80s baby, I'm a 70s baby. Yeah, so by the time I was 13, 14, 15 years old, it was Run DMC, it was LL, it was Houdini, and all. These were the main guys of that day and time who we wanted to be like. We wanted to get there. So we shopping our music to Profile Records, Def Jam, whoever would you know, accept it. But we would receive rejection letters like, oh no, this is not good enough, or whatever the case. Well, we would get close sometimes. And as a young person, 15, 16 years old, you feel that disappointment. But then when I got older, when I got to be about 21, 22, and I became familiar with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and like I told you, I started incorporating that in my music. I'm not thinking, okay, I'm still sending out demos. Yeah. I'm not putting a connection together with what I'm talking about and who I'm trying to get signed by. It's not going to go together. So once that was made known to us, and my dad, he'll tell this story all the time, you know, one of the labels was like, you need to get off of that Farrakhan stuff. You can't talk about that and be signed with us. And we bumped heads behind that as well, because he was like, look, his theory was, I'm not trying to make you change and not be who you are. I'm just saying, chill on it to get in the door. And then once you get in the door, then they can't stop you, do what you do. My thought was, I feel like I'm selling out if I do that.
Let me just be who I am.
Let me be who I am. They take me, they don't.
Yeah.
And that's basically the direction I went. So looking back on it, I tried early on, but when I look back at it now, it's like, man, that's a blessing that I didn't get in early. Because if I would have got in as a teenager before I even knew, then possibly I would have immersed myself in that world, in that industry, in a way that it would have been almost impossible for me to do a 180 and pivot if I would have ever came across this knowledge at all. So I was independent basically by force, but I also feel like it was by destiny too. Destiny. You know,
I get it. When you, the way that you rap, you know, as a fan, this is with me just talking about that analytically. I am a Wu-Tang fanatic. You know what I'm saying? Like literally from '94 until anything during the CD era, whatever they made, I was buying it. But that's what I feel mainstream music, and this is not really the conspiracy theory conversation, but it's just like, I think that mainstream music is directed towards impressionable minds. So I'm 13, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know what 13-year-olds like? Neither do I, because neither do they. You know, so it's just like, but whatever sounds like it and it hits. And I was abstract too, because when my friends were listening to literally anything, I'm gonna listen to the opposite of it. Not because I didn't like it, only because I was curious what else was there. I'm a why person. I'm a question person. So my boys were listening to Spice One and Too Short, right? And I'm gonna say, well, Jay-Z. It's the opposite coast. Right. I was like, well, Jay-Z is right here, you know, so let me see what this is. And so he had my boy had a library of CDs. Man, I never seen nobody have this many CDs when he's like 4 years older than me, right? So he, you know, has a little job, you know, and he was just buying music all the time. And so they're listening to Houston rappers, right? Because anybody was going to listen to Ghetto Boys. So you're just going to have that, right? Mm-hmm. But they're also listening, the transition, in my opinion, the relationship with Houston to California in terms of lyrical style it's a linear chronological timeline.
Right.
Until I hear how you rap. And I mean this is just not me blowing smoke. You and Gangsta Nip don't rap like that. Right. You ain't never rap like that. It's more, it's not comparison. Yeah. I'm just saying that it alluded to Grave Diggers. Yeah. You familiar with them?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I'm not familiar with a lot of music, but I know Gangsta Nip is on the hardcore.
Hardcore.
Right.
Like, and I can't listen to this, bro. You have to understand what I'm saying. Like, if anyone heard me listen to this, it had to be in the headphones. It could not be on the speaker.
Right.
If I'm listening to this, I'm like, I'm gonna turn this down and just do like this very quietly, you know, in the speaker. But I'm saying the way the rap style is, the delivery of it. That's not a very, very centric Houston-based style, and it also isn't a very California-based style. I think maybe, you know, the Ice-T style movement, the way he delivered his music. Because again, as a child, I'm comparing. Oh, they sound like them. They sound like them. Well, if I like them, I gotta like them, so I gotta buy that. Yeah. You know, that era is precious to me because the newer music. That's for my children. It doesn't suit me the same way. I like melodic music. It's cool. I get it. Mm-hmm. This is different though. Mm-hmm. This is different. You know, I can run behind you, which is what happened in the restaurant. I don't know if you remember that, but what happened in the restaurant is that I recited one of your lyrics, and then I was like, "Man, where you been at?" And I was actually writing for a magazine. It was called Streetwise Magazine out of Austin. So I was writing for this magazine, and I was like, "Man, where you been at, man? Because I'm doing this thing, man. Maybe you'd be interested in this program." And you said. And it blew my mind. You said, I just came back from Poland.
Yeah, Finland.
Finland?
Right.
Okay, Finland. Right. And I'm like, excuse me? He said he just came back from Finland. You went with, who was it that you was with? I don't think it was.
What year was that?
Man.
Because I've been out there twice, so it depends.
Look at that. Talk that talk.
First time. Yeah.
I don't know. What year? Was it maybe 06, 07?
Okay,
maybe?
So if it was around that time, I went to Finland, I think in 05. Mm-hmm. Went to Australia in 07.
Okay.
So, but when I went to Finland, I went by myself.
Okay.
I went with a buddy of mine in Australia. But a lot of times when I traveled, I went one deep. I was one deep, but I may been on with other guys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You were in Germany too?
I was in the UK.
You in the
UK? Yeah, I did some shows with Master Ace in the UK in 2014, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow. This is what he was telling me. I mean, I'm talking about being approachable, bro. Like it's not. A lot of people ain't gonna do that because you don't really know who's who. You know what I'm saying? Like I could be an aspiring rapper. They could be perceived that I'm trying to take food off your plate. I'm not. I think you can see it in my eyes. I was like, where have you been at, man? Because I was waiting for more music. You know, like I'm over here doing that type of stuff because that's, man, I'm a fan, bro. But when you said it, you told me right then and there, you said, a lot of Houston artists sell a lot overseas. And this is the CD era. That's right. So you're finding yourself on CD racks, literally moving units. As an independent artist,
that's right.
Mm-hmm. How can you? I've always wanted to ask this question. How can you get distribution in that era? This ain't the same. There's no streaming services. There's no Napster even. How do you get distribution at that decade overseas? Is this just all phone calls at that point?
Well, it was email. You know, so we didn't have the social media platforms, but the internet was still heavily active. So a lot of the people who in the late 80s and early 90s would call in to the record company, because we would have our phone number on the back of the CDs and the tapes, and this transition over into people emailing you and reaching out and like, hey man, I'm in Germany, I'm in Australia, whatever, and independent. Same like you got mom and pop shops out here where they used to.
Yeah.
They have them in other countries as well, and they say, man, we want to order 30 CDs, we want to order 100 CDs, 50, whatever it is, and we would ship that stuff over there to them.
Freight.
Yeah, and the beauty of it was I always give credit to Rap-A-Lot Records, because for us, me being an artist who was never signed to Rap-A-Lot, but Gangsta Nip was on Rap-A-Lot. Dopey and the Terrorists was on Rap-A-Lot. These are all South Park Coalition artists.
SPC, yeah.
So being on Rap-A-Lot gave them nationwide, worldwide distribution. Then they would feature myself, Point Blank, AC Chill, Klondike Cat on these albums. That's how the rest of the world got exposed to us, and domestically too. So we would send our stuff out, man. When is K-Rino coming out with an album? When is Point Blank coming? And that gave us a good promotional boost, a buzz to put our stuff out. So we would just send the stuff out there, man.
And to go on tour too.
Yeah, and they would love it. They would love it. So this went on for years before somebody ever reached out to say, hey man, what would it take to bring y'all over here? And because that messed our head up too, like, bring us over where? Like, like, you mean over there? So I mean, but because if you've never been,
yeah,
it's like, man. So it was just an evolution. But the fact, again, going back to your question about the major labels and not having those major deals, man, that was a blessing, because now we were able to move however we wanted to move. And when they reached out to us as independents, we could do whatever we want to do and go wherever we want to go.
Yeah.
So when they reached out, we just went, man. We just went.
I think I'm pro Houston, man. Like when you start talking about that journey. Plus, I might look like I'm 18. I'm a little older, right? But so I just remember it. You know what I mean? Because at that point, I was trying to start off one of the first things that I've launched, and it was media, but it was mainly photography. This is what I was doing at the time. And I published a small calendar, and I did it independent. So I went through the woes of understanding all the way up to an ISBN number, like what you would need. And you know what's so crazy is that it actually sold the most in the prison system. Like they gonna get a calendar. Like, believe me, that was on the wall.
Right.
And
wow.
But then at one point, I think it was Washington State, they sent it back. They said it was contraband, and that's when I realized I need that ISBN number. Right. It was just learning on the fly. Yeah. A lot of everything that I did was really just not being afraid to fail. Yeah. And that's what I always appreciated as a testament. We could probably do this all day, but I wanted to kind of wrap up with a couple of things with y'all.
Well, what we got coming up, what recently just occurred this Sunday, May 1st, we had Barbers and Legends, with my comrade Black Smooth the Barber, Mike Don't Trust You, Mr. T-Shirt Man, and myself, Speaker Brandon Glaspie. It was a comedy show, great turnout, and out there in 3rd Ward off of McGowan, Hadley Street. Yeah, it was 33. Hadley Street. Mm-hmm. So we had a big turnout out there, and it's got some things cooking with that's coming up, because we finna push that to the max. So be looking out for that. Definitely. Social medias. You can find me on Instagram at Speaker Brandon, Brandon, Gillespie, Glasp as in Paul, IE. Also on Facebook as well, or you can just find me by searching Prison Youth TV on Instagram as well, and come check out all the content and the things we got going on.
What about you, K-Rino?
Yeah, basically just my YouTube channel, The Real K-Rino. Y'all subscribe. And you can follow me on Twitter at The Real K-Rino. It's the same handle. So we try to do life lessons every day. Just something that people can take immediately and incorporate it into their life. Nothing too far over people's heads. And just try to give you about 7-8 minutes a game per day. And that's what I do on my YouTube channel.
It's a really good channel. You got a really good page as well. I wanted to pick y'all's brains, honestly, and I really, really appreciate your time, more than you can imagine, just about being able to actually have this conversation. where to find them is going to also be listed. If you're listening to it, it's going to be in the description section. If you're watching YouTube, I'll make sure that the @ are underneath each of the images like I always do. Another thing that that we were talking about, me and my friends, in the rap career of you, is that you did a mixtape. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out my homeboy. He was actually on your mixtape. Rush is his name. He goes by DeVille now, but he's still rapping. But he was on the Headhunters mixtape.
Wow.
And so he said, I said, hey, I'm about to run into the studio. K-Rino says, anything you want me to say? He's like, nah, I ain't got nothing. So you can tell him, though, that I'm on minute 257 of the Headhunters song. I'm going to send that over to you. But shout out to DeVille.
No doubt. Shout out, brother.
The young cats, not as young, but kind of young, you know, one step down. I think this is like a 3-step generational conversation, right? Just based on your generation, mine, then yours, right? Respectfully. Because I know you got some age, but I think I got a number on you. You know what I'm saying? Although he looks 19, man, like I get it. Like I love this, man. You're going to go around here like a vampire this whole time.
I'm 37.
See, there you go.
Man, look.
There you go. It's a good life, man. I understand it to be so, and I'm very thankful that I have it.
That's right.
Well, let's do this. Let's close out. I got a couple of shout outs and I also have a couple of closing items, so just bear with me. You can find me on all streaming platforms, and that's qualified, the podcast, accept no imitations. QLAFD is the handle. On the social media, it's QLAFD podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Also, be on the lookout for Qualified Indie Radio. That's tonight at 7 o'clock. If you're listening, we'll just repost that accordingly. Tuesdays, every other Tuesday, 7 p.m., IG Live. Black His and Hers, BLKHISNHERS, 10% off with the handle QLAFD10. How you like that? Pretty good, man. I've actually memorized this stuff.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, cool, man. Listen, this is Qualified the Podcast with my guest, Brandon Glaspie, pastor, speaker, Brandon Glaspie. Hashtag Pastor Glaspie said it. You got to check that out. And also the H-Town legend, co-founder of SPC Coalition, native South Parker. Shout out Southside, Houston, Texas. What's up? K-Rino.
Yeah, salute, man. Blessings, man.